Good afternoon. You are watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim, and these are today's top stories. Agriculture Minister Akram Shahayeb inaugurates a project aiming at planting 1 million trees in South Lebanon, increasing green areas. A new storm is approaching Lebanon with snowfall expected at high altitudes in the north. And a top defense lawyer at the Special Tribunal for Lebanon asks the prosecution if they will formally indict the leadership in Syria after testimony from MP Marwan Hamedi dramatically changed the scope of the trial. Agriculture Minister Akram Shahayeb has inaugurated a project that aims to plant 1 million trees in South Lebanon in order to bolster the culture of forestation in the south and increasing green areas. The initiative, named A Tree for Every Citizen, was launched by 3 local NGOs, Green Without Frontiers, the Municipal Work Organization, and the Peace Generations Organization. It will be monitored by the Agriculture Ministry, but is separate from the ministry's 40 million tree project announced earlier this month. Shahayeb praised the project and its organizers, saying that planting trees and restoring Lebanon's environmental health is a contribution to building and enhancing a culture of peace. A top defense lawyer at the Special Tribunal for Lebanon has criticized the prosecutors for radically changing the scope of trial after they began examining the breakdown of relations between Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and former Premier Rafiq Hariri ahead of the latter's assassination. Yasser Hassan, a defense lawyer for Hussein Onaisi, one of 5 suspects, said the defense lawyers had understood the political testimony that began last week in the Hariri trial as pointing to Syria being ultimately behind the assassination, and called on prosecutors to clarify whether they would amend their indictment in the case. He said the expansion in the scope of the trial would place a great burden on the defense, which has so far been preparing for a case primarily based on telecommunications evidence. Coming up next, on to you, Yumna. Coming up next, more news from Lebanon and around the world. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to you, Yumna, for the exclusive.
Thank you, Linda. Today we're talking about the Special Tribunal for Lebanon. It has entered its 11th month, or is entering. 5 Hezbollah members have been tried in absentia for the bomb that killed former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri and 21 others back in February of 2005. Last week, MP Marwan Hamedi was the first Lebanese politician to take the stand. He opened a new dimension to the case when he testified about the threats and intimidation used by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to control the politics of Lebanon before the assassination. But where do those revelations take us? What do they mean for the case? And most importantly, what does the Special Tribunal for Lebanon mean for the country? With us today, we have journalist Mohammed Zainab. He has been following the STL closely for Future Television since the beginning. Mohammed, let's start with what happened last week. What does the testimony of Marwan Hamedi mean for the
having
case?
Me on your bulletin.
Anytime.
Let's look at it like this. Right now we're having Mr. MP Marwan Hamedi. He's giving the surroundings, the atmospherics before the assassination of our late Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri. He's looking at, we have to look at it as an ongoing process. He's putting up things together because this stage is a new stage. We're entering a second stage.
Yes.
Yes, because first we have the technical evidence. It's very, we can say, dry somehow.
Logistics, technicalities.
It's not that enthusiastic for us and for people. Now it's a different state. We are knowing facts, some kind of giving new information that we never knew before. And it's in here where we implicating the president or the Syrian regime in this stage.
Right. So what about, because this is MP Marwan Hamedi, as a lot of people know, was also a survivor of an assassination attempt. And he's been revealing, like you said, the STL has taken a completely new angle now because this is the first politician testifying. So what are the possible implications for Syria's Assad?
So the possible implications maybe we'll not see things like right away, but just naming al-Assad is not something new.
Right.
And we all know that. It was already public. It was published in many media and newspapers, TVs. But right now, Prime or MP Ahmadi is reassuring what has happened. He's saying it in, under the oath in front of an international tribunal, which make it gains more weight.
It's true. Do you think him testifying puts his life at risk again?
Yes, he's at risk again and again because, and he said it, if you were watching the session, he said it directly. He said when the judge were asking, Mr. Ahmadi, we'll see you later next week, what did he say, if you remember? He said, if I come back. So he said it in a sarcastic way, but this is the real thing in Lebanon.
We have to constantly wait to see
yes.
what happens, especially because Lebanon has seen so many assassination attempts. A major criticism of the trial that analysts are criticizing about, they say that there have been no presentation of a motive for the 5 Hezbollah members that were tried in absentia. Now, in fact, they say that Hariri and Nasrallah were meeting regularly before his assassination. Is there a motive that has been revealed? What's the possible motive of these 5 members?
That's why we are going into the second stage where political reasons and political atmosphere is
there
involved.
Anything that has been
because
revealed?
The 5, not yet, but we're expecting. Because the 5 Hezbollah suspects, they didn't have really a personal motive. They didn't know, as we know, they didn't know our Prime Minister. But as of the political issue, the surroundings of Mr. Hariri in that stage of his life, the threats that were raised against him from the Syrian regime, is all the facts that we are seeing right now.
Do you think that the outcome of the results that come out of this tribunal, can they damage already what's very fragile here, which are a lot of groups that are a lot of political groups that are not getting along? Can it damage further the situation?
A lot of groups of
political groups in Lebanon. The situation is the security situation is very fragile as it is today. Can it get worse?
What I think, the STL will not get in this worse, but what I know is truth and justice. Whatever damage they get to us, its benefits is larger. It will give us more hope to build a new Lebanon. It will give us more and more. Maybe one day we'll have some of these people that are named now and will be unmasked later. They will be punished for what they did.
Well,
who knows?
Speaking of punishment, Speaker Nabih Berri is trying to broker talks between Hezbollah, of which 5 members have been indicted, and the Future Movement, of which Rafiq Hariri is the initiator and the main leader. Do you think the evidence presented in the STL can disrupt this? I mean, if Hezbollah are in fact the guilty ones, should we even try to cooperate with them?
As President Saad al-Hariri said earlier, it's only 5 suspects we are looking at. We are not looking at Hezbollah at large. We are looking at these only 5 suspects. Just give them to the STL, let them there, and that is the end of it. We can build Lebanon hand by hand with Hezbollah. This will not be of larger, let's say, it will not...
It doesn't, 5 of them does not mean
does
the whole,
not mean that
basically.
Hezbollah...
There are also those that say...
But you know, our Minister of Internal Affairs, Mr. Nuhad Mashnouk,
yes.
he said, yes, he said what you were saying, that it may escalate the things that are already fragile here in Lebanon.
Especially now that we're entering a completely new stage with the Special Tribunal for Lebanon.
That's
there
true.
are those also that say that the Special Tribunal will neither bring justice nor any improvement or change to Lebanon, that it's in vain. So it's just happening, but nothing really is going to come out of it. And with the suspect being tried in absentia too, they're not even there, what does the trial serve? What is the purpose?
Truth
some people are saying.
And justice, which I think are very, very valuable for such a country like Lebanon. And like I said earlier, who knows, maybe one day we get people to be punished. Who knows?
So this is what do you think is the hope for the future of Lebanon? What is the hope of this whole situation?
We get those who did assassinate our late Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri, we get them imprisoned, we get them at the STL. they have to go there one day or another, them or other people that appears later. That's the only way. If we don't get truth and justice in position, we'll never have a real country. And I always remember, like the earlier president of the STL, what he said, STL, it serves what it deserves. So that's the whole thing.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us, Mohammed Zainab. That was journalist Mohammed Zainab talking about the STL. Back to you, Linda.
Now for some more news in Lebanon. Internal Security Forces Unit Commander in Tripoli, Brigadier General Bassam al-Ayoubi, has disclosed that Omar Bustani and Isa Abous, who were kidnapped in Tripoli yesterday, have been released and are on their way back home. The two were kidnapped by an armed group along with a third person in broad daylight near Tripoli's Sahsah coffee shop in the Ashir al-Daya neighborhood, allegedly for family reasons. Lebanese Forces Chief Samir Jaja has welcomed his presidential competitor, MP Michel Aoun's initiative for electing a new head of state, but says limiting the contest to just the two of them won't make a difference in the end, since weak candidates will be eliminated after the first round of voting. Jaja also said he would be ready to drop out of the race if former president and head of the Kataib party, Amin Jumail, could manage to get the support of any party in the March 8 coalition. Aoun, the March 8 candidate, unexpectedly challenged Jaja, the March 14 nominee, to a face-off in a presidential vote on the condition that there would be no third candidate. Summer is definitely over and stormy weather is approaching Lebanon again, with tomorrow expected to be cloudy in the morning with heavy rain in the afternoon. Thunder and snow are expected at altitudes higher than 1,500 meters. The storm is predicted to last for 2 days, accompanied by lower temperatures. The deadline for the Iranian nuclear talks has arrived, and British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond has promised that the 5 world powers and Iran will make a last push to arrive at a deal before the deadline expires at midnight tonight.
We're all focused on trying to get to a deal, but I wouldn't want to give any false hopes here. We're still quite a long way apart, and there are some very tough and complex issues to deal with, but we're all focused right now on trying to get that deal done. Well, look, at the moment we're focused on the last push, big push tomorrow morning to try and get this across the line. Of course, if we're not able to do it, we'll then look at where we go from there. But at the moment everybody's talking about how we are going to try and bridge that gap and move things forward tomorrow with the Iranians. Thank you.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Agriculture Minister Akram Shayib inaugurates a project aiming at planting 1 million trees in South Lebanon, increasing green areas. A new storm is approaching Lebanon, with snowfall expected at high altitudes in the north. And a top defense lawyer at the Special Tribunal for Lebanon asks the prosecution if they will formally indict the leadership in Syria after a testimony from MP Marwan Hamedi dramatically changed the scope of the trial. Those are your top stories for today. I'm Linda Tamim, wishing you all a very nice week ahead.